Hello and welcome to my first little video tutorial for Poser. I'm going to show you how to simulate one of my older products, which will be the SylphDress. What you will need first is to load Victoria 4 into your scene, and to make the dress fit nice and plain we will first zero her joints. You can go and use the joint editor here. Of course, you have to select Victoria first and then click on zero rotations. So the only change you will see is that her legs will be moving a bit and that her feet will end up sticking in the ground. That's okay, you should get the same results here. Now I'm going to find the SylphDress, the hybrid dress, and I'm going to conform it to Victoria. Now the dress is loaded. I'm just going to make sure that it's conformed. Okay, what you will need is a 45 frame simulation, and you need the animation bar in your scene. So click in the last frame window and enter the number 45. You will stay in frame 1 first, and first adaptation to the scene is you're going to move Victoria a little bit that her skirt hem will not touch the ground. Okay, you have set this. Jump to frame 30 by entering the number in the first frame window. Now choose a nice pose to work with. I'm going to choose one of Danny and Marfono's classic poses here from the Temptation package. I'm going to use number 15. Okay, loaded. Now this will look a little bit odd. The skirt is not moving, so it's sticking into her feet. But don't worry about this, we will get this ready in the simulation. But you will notice that Victoria is floating a bit above ground because the Y translate still has the same value from frame 1. Now you can fix that by going to the figure menu and say drop to floor. Of course you have to have Victoria selected. Now everything looks good. Now go back to frame 1. You're going to jump to the cloth room. Okay, make the first basic settings. Select the dress, select the body part dress, and click on new simulation. You can name this one. I'm going to name this here dress, so I can later distinguish which simulation is which. Click on simulation settings again and then enter the last frame, number 45, and check the box cloth self collision. Click on OK. The next step down here will be to go to the Clothify button. Click on this and you will see, since I already had the dress body part selected, this also shows up in here. So I'm going to this is the way to get to this. Select the dress and then go to body parts and then go to the bottommost part. Click on Clothify. The next setting you will need is the Collide Against button, because the dress has to know which parts of the scene it has to interact with, and this is at first the ground, this brownish plane here. All of Victoria, of course, mainly her lower body parts, and that's it for this scene. You can just select the two of them and then click on OK. Now you see some of the formerly inactive options here are not grayed out anymore. One thing you can change is this collision offset. This will take care of how close to the interacting bodies the dress will come. The lower the value, the closer. The lowest value is 0.1 and the standard entered value is 1. I prefer to work with values about about around 0.2 to 0.5. And since we know that the dress will not interact with a few body parts because of the pose, you can also check some of these options here. For this scene, go to Ignore Head Collisions, and starting from zero, draping from zero pose is active too, so you can leave that and click on OK. Well, now there isn't much to do. You can now simply click on Calculate Simulation, and then Poser will think a bit, and then you will get this little status window below, and it will start to drape. The first 30 frames are reserved for the draping process inside the pose. In frame 30, Victoria will have assumed her final pose, but the rest of the 15 frames is just for draping and settling of the dress. So she will not move, but the dress will pull around her and move around her. So this is this, and we will probably see the nice end result. Okay, this is already finished. I've made a preset scene to load with, and you can also already see what the simulation is going to look like. When I pull the slider here, you can see up to frame 30 she's posing, but after frame 30 she isn't moving, but the dress is moving. Okay. If you want to use morphs, the dress has got a couple of them. All the morph tiles are located in the body part. Under styles you can use this morphs. This only takes care of settling gravity for the topmost part. Here the train long morph draws out the... it's inactive now because the simulation is fixed. Takes care of this long train part here, so you have a couple of other options. Always set the morphs you wish to use in frame 1. If you use them in a later frame, it might not work. So the morphed shape will be the basic shape for the dress. Okay, now we might want to use the sleeves too. You go back to frame 1, and because the sleeves only load on a zeroed Victoria, you have to zero these Y translate value. And now we go to the props folder. You will find the SD dünn sleeves in there. Just load them. And now don't forget to parent them to Victoria. Go to the object menu, go to change parent, and parent them to Victoria's body. That's it. Now we need a second class simulation. We already have this one here, which I named Dress 1. In my first example, I can still rename this one. Now you go here and click on New Simulation. Let's call this Sleeves. Set the end frame to 45. Check Cloth Self-Collision. You already know that from the dress example. Click on Clothify. Make sure your sleeves are selected. Go on Clothify, click on Collide Against. Now you have to be a little bit more careful because you do not only need the ground and Victoria. Collapse Victoria by clicking on the first arrow, and then you come to the hybrid dress, and our sleeves need to collide with that one as well, so check all of them. Set the offset to 0.5, ignore head, start draping from 0 pose. So, okay, now we have to take care of one more little detail, because the sleeves have a constraint material in here which will take care of the sleeves not sliding down. This constraint group will stick the sleeves to her shoulders, and to access this, click on Edit Constraint Group down here. You will get this panel, and then you say Add This looks a little bit different in lesser poser versions, but essentially it does the same. You can add a material, and the material you're looking for is name constraint, so you don't have to do much hunting. If you click it, you will notice this little cloud of red dots. This just says that your material is selected and assigned to the constraint group. Okay, it's the same here, nothing much to do but to click on Calculate Simulation, and the only thing worth noticing is that when the simulation starts, the dress also will simulate with it. That's not a real simulation, it's just the replay of the first dress simulation Poser has saved inside the scene file. Okay, it's taking a bit longer to think. So this is the scene I've prepared with the completely simulated sleeves. This odd shape up here is due to a morph I applied in frame 1 to shorten the sleeve tops so you can see her hands when the simulation is finished, otherwise the sleeve will drape over her hands and they will be hidden. When I pull up the slider to frame 45, you will see there's some sort of bouncing going on here. That's exactly the draping and flowing action I was talking about between frame 30 and 45. So at first sight we already notice some odd things going on in here. There's some intersection here, these shadowy groups. I've used a little trick, this crumpling here, to see the insides of the sleeves because they are one-sided polygon objects and normally you do not see them, but you can alter your render settings to fix that. It's under the preview options. If you uncheck this box, remove back-facing polys, you will be able to see the insides of a one-sided polygon object. You see, if I check this and say save, they disappear. That's what you normally see. You might be familiar with this with perhaps very long hair. The same effect. So you can use this also to make your hair visible. Okay, now how to get rid of these crunchy, crumply parts. That's simple. You use the Morph brush tool, this hand and finger icon. And I mainly will use the smooth option. Now these icons do look a bit different in Poser Pro 2014, which I'm using. But you have this smooth option in other Poser versions too. Select the sleeves, choose the smooth option, and this little cloud of green, yellow and red dots shows the influence sphere of my brush. You can make it larger by pulling up the radius slider. Pulling up the magnitude slider just determines how big the influence of the smoothing brush will be, how much it will change. I'm going to up this to 1 because I want big, quick changes. So when I move this over, when I brush this out, you see my wrinkles, my crumples are going away. So I have to work on this for a bit. When I want to work on the dress, I select the dress and then the dress body part. I can do the similar thing here. Pull it out of a leg and work on the train. So you get the basic idea. I would recommend to play around with this a little bit so you get a feeling for what the different brush options do. You have a pull option which essentially pulls the mesh out to you. You can play around with these relative to options which will do different things. Just play and find out which setting is the best for you. Okay, when you're done, just close the panel. Okay, this is the last scene I prepared. You see some odd crunchiness going on here. And this is the applied fix morph, the custom brush morph I used to smooth out the crunchy and wrinkly parts. So if I pull up this slider, you see this is the smooth dress. I didn't work much on this, just doing a few quick fixes. Now I added these armbands, I added this belt, and if you want to do this you have to put Victoria back into frame 1, load the belt, parent the belt to her hip, go back to frame 45 with your fixed sleeves and dress, and then move the belt into position. It has a few body parts in here which you can influence one by one, but first you have to move this belt out a little bit here on the Z-axis. Okay, just one more tip to make your life a little bit more easy, because if you rotate your camera after you have set up your cloth simulation, your camera will also animate during the cloth simulation and will not stay fixed. If you do not want this, you can always uncheck the animating property of your main camera. You can do this for every camera in your scene, depending on which point of view you are using. So I hope you found this little video tutorial helpful for working with the SylphDress, and I hope to see you again, and happy rendering. Bye!